2,000 homes in his career as a solo agent. I'm very curious in getting on Aaron's head.
I remember as a kid selling airheads out of my backpack.
Really?
I would take the dollar bills, I would iron them. You know, my family of origin are very kind, nice people. I didn't have any resources. I know they were doing the best that they could under those set of circumstances. At the same time, it made me angry. Ooh, if there's not this internal friction and like an internal kind of grappling,
Yeah.
you're not really pushing yourself. So it went from no coach, made 13,000 bucks. First 90 days with a coach, 15 transactions.
Wow.
So it was on track to do, you know, whatever that is, 50, 60 deals. But then my mom, in April of 2007, she had a brain bleed. I made a very quick decision that I would just shut everything down and start from scratch.
But the numbers, again, I know a lot of successful agents. How do you get to sell that many properties?
I found the vehicle. Imagine, I felt like Charlie in the Charlie Factory. Like, I have the golden ticket. I have this thing. It's legal to sell. I can sell as much as I want. Selling that many homes for an extended period of time and turning yourself into the person that can do that, that's great. Selling 200 homes is cool twice. Then I started to think about that leverage. I started to think about time. I started thinking about margin with time, money, and energy. And really starting to want, now it's about, okay, how can we also bring back into my life
First episode, season 2, with me, I have my dear friend, business partner, and coach, Aaron Novello. I know that most of you that will be watching are probably very familiar with him. I wanted to bring him because he's somebody that I appreciate a lot, admire a lot, and respect. He has helped me a lot in my business. Aaron, for those of you that don't know, he's a real estate agent here in South Florida. He's been doing it for almost 20 years. He has sold 2,000 homes in his career. For over 10 years, 100 homes by himself sold in a row, and twice 200 homes sold as a solo agent. I've never met my 8 years of career somebody those numbers. I'm very curious in getting on Aaron's head where all of that comes. Talk to me, starting from the beginning. As a kid, were you born and raised here in South Florida?
Yes. Before I raised here in South Florida, I went to Seminole Middle School, Plantation High School, Peters Elementary. As a young person, I was aware that I liked commerce. You know, I remember as a kid selling airheads out of my backpack.
Really?
Yeah, at the bus stop. And I would take the dollar bills, I would iron them and put them in little baseball cases. I don't know if you remember those plastic baseball cases. And I'd fan them out. And like, ooh, I'm rich.
That's good.
As I got older, I would take these tests, these aptitude tests that are trying to kind of place you. Because, you know, as a kid, you don't really know what you are.
Yeah.
What I would do is I would just look at the list and be like, who makes the most amount of money? And it was usually a physician.
Yeah.
Right. And what was interesting is that the tests would always come back salesperson. And I'd always try to push that away. But
Why?
I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah.
I didn't know that you could turn that into like a profession.
Yeah.
And do it in high volume. I didn't know that the top of the field in sales makes sometimes 3 times the amount of money acquisitions you have, right? And the reason why money was the focus is, you know, my family of origin are very kind, nice people. I didn't have any resources.
Yeah.
And I had a few experiences as a younger person where I wanted to have autonomy. And in those instances, I didn't. And in our current slice of time of society, it used to be brute strength.
Yeah.
Would get you those things, now it's money. So that's why the focus was there.
Got you. So definitely out of necessity.
Yeah, and it was more so not necessarily like savings. It's more so like freedom. Because what I'm aware of what money really does is it buys options, choices.
Yeah.
It buys good education, it buys medication.
So it was a freedom to choose if I wanted.
Yes. It was really like autonomy, yeah, freedom and control. And I would also like notice, you know, my dad, he's a furniture repairman. He's an awesome person.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I would go to work with them, not because I like that or enjoyed it at all. I just wanted to spend time with them. It was pretty boring. We would go into houses though here, like in, let's say like Fort Lauderdale by the beach. And I would watch my dad like feel different in that house, like kind of shrink, right? Maybe not physically shrink, but like mentally shrink, like, ooh, like look at this, like it was like less than.
Talking about as a kid, you were feeling this.
Yeah, I would feel that. I would notice. I would simply, yeah, for sure notice these. Yeah, because children they're super capable. We're constantly monitoring our surroundings. So yeah, I would pick up on those things. I would watch my parents kind of fight about money. I'd watch that like always be like an issue.
Yeah.
And a point of kind of stress and contention. I had a few instances too where I was following the cultural mean or script, which is like, okay, you need to go to school, you need to work hard, we go to school. So I did well at school, and then I got a scholarship to go to college, but my parents didn't have enough money for me to go.
Yeah.
And in that instance, I kind of felt like, well, I did my part.
Yes.
You didn't do your part, right? And I know they were doing the best that they could under those set of circumstances. At the same time, it made me, I was like, all right, well, I don't want anybody in my experience. Personally, I don't want to have that experience. And I don't want anybody who's in my kind of circle or my immediate family or future family to experience that. Yep.
Makes sense. I could see how you feel as a kid those things, even though you might not be able to process those things.
Yeah.
Or understand exactly what it is. You use the word, and that's a very accurate word. Because I could remember also as a kid, having moments.
Right? And I'm imagining you remember moments where without it being said, you knew something was going on and like we didn't have as much as somebody else.
Yeah.
Nobody had to say anything, but it was like very clear.
That is true. That is true. And as a kid, that anger, sometimes parents, if they don't pick it up right, they might think that as a kid, you're grateful. Because they also want to suppress reality. No parent wants to feel that they're never providing. I'm not saying that necessarily is your case, because again, our parents did what they could with what they have.
And I think sometimes they try to make sense of what they have. One, if that makes sense. Yeah. Right? So they'll tell you things like, oh, well, you know, like people who have money are not good people or something. Or, you know, to try to make it seem more acceptable that they're in a financial situation that they're in. What could also happen, which happened for me, I don't know if this happened for you, that what then started to take place is I started to like observe, let's say, the way that they were living, the choices they were making. And then I got like judgmental about it. So there was a time in like teenage where once I saw what was really going on, I got, again, judgmental. Right. About it. And I was kind of angry. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you making these choices?
Now I can understand where the driven is of making sure that you have a surplus of where, you know, resources down comes from. But there's the factor of the intelligence. Where does that come? So you're always being like disciplined as far as education?
Well, and I think where the discipline comes from is like I had an experience as a young person. Our brains aren't fully developed until we're like in our 20s. So things can happen when you're young and we can deduce meaning. As humans, we have the capacity to either give things empowering meanings or disempowering meanings. And an experience that I had as a young person where my biological dad and my mom, they got divorced, but I had to go visit him and get on a plane and fly, basically to go see like a stranger that I didn't know who they were. Once I was able to like cognitively understand what was going on, I believe that the way that I perceived that was like, oh, like something must be wrong. That's why you're sending me away. Like I must have done something wrong.
You process that after as an adult or during the time?
No, as an adult, kind of reflecting back, like, because I was really tight with my mom and like she was sending me away. So I was like, I must have, again, little kid brain, wasn't what was actually true. Little kid brain, like, oh, like I must have done something wrong. I must not be good enough, otherwise you wouldn't be sending me away.
Yeah.
And then what, as a result of that, I felt like I had to be the best at everything. Really out of fear.
That makes sense.
Right? So then I would push myself beyond what most people would do to get the best players, to be the best at. You know what I mean? Like I had to be, I remember as a young kid, like tracing and because I felt like I had to be a great artist. I had to be great at everything.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. It makes sense. And the only way that you are able to understand beats by stopping and reflecting. The fact that when you talk about your past, you analyze stuff that happened, specifically events that happen in your life.
Yeah.
Is that something that you do often, do you say?
Yeah, I think I'm constantly like, you know, looking for patterns because I think in order to produce good outcomes, you have to be able to recognize patterns. And then once you recognize them, to use them, right? That has come from like lots of personal involvement things. So I, from the time in my early 20s, because my parents were doing a certain thing, so I couldn't really ask them about how to do stuff because they didn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
It's not that they were stupid, they were just ignorant. And ignorant just means like you don't know.
Yeah.
So they didn't know. So I had to reach out to other sources. I didn't know anybody. So I reached out to mentors, but in the form of book or the through. So I started to read books in my early 20s, like Smart Couples Finish Rich, Rich Dad
For yourself, the buddies.
Yeah. As a desire, though, as a byproduct of being like, hey, this is unacceptable to me. I don't know what the way is, but I'm either find the way or make the way. So it was searching for like the way. And that evolved into coaching. I've been professionally coached since I'm 26 years old, 43 now.
Mom.
So consecutively through that whole time period.
Yeah.
And I remember being at a seminar and we're doing a kind of guided meditation and walking through that experience that I was just telling you.
Yeah.
How, kind of going away and how I was processing it. That's what I became aware of.
Oh, that's it's interesting because you mentioned coaching. You're a coach yourself. That's something that I missed to mention at the beginning of the introduction. You have coached hundreds of agents, probably now getting to thousands in your entire career as a real estate coach, but you coach deeper than that. So you start with books and then evolve into coaching to seeking for knowledge from other people by yourself.
Well, with the help of others. So like in the sense that I was at a seminar and somebody came up to me and they were like, hey, are you going to get involved in our coaching program? Yeah. And I was like, I don't know, maybe. And they're like, why? Can you afford it? And like the ego part. And then she walked me to the back and I got signed up. Yeah. That's how that happened. I called Carla like, hey, I'm about to spend like, this amount of money per month.
Because you were with Carla.
Yeah. And she's always been super supportive. She's like, yeah, okay, if you think it makes sense, like do it. So I did. And that has progressed and continued throughout my entire career. Now, I've also not only sought out kind of guidance, we could call it, or coaching from people within the space of selling in high volume. I spent about 10 years like learning that. I also have sought out people who can help me the like psychological component,
the mindset.
Yeah. With Taming Your Gremlin, I became a faculty member of the Gremlin Taming Institute, but it began
all of that in your late 20s.
Yeah, that was like late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah.
Now, what it's graduated to, just 18 months ago, I realized like media is important.
Yeah.
What we're doing today.
Yeah.
I realized also I didn't really understand it. Like I knew it was important, I kind of got it, but I didn't understand the platforms. I didn't understand how to use them.
Yeah.
I just didn't understand how to do it. So I paid somebody a meaningful amount of money to teach me.
At the beginning, you were just testing the waters. Out of ego, somebody told you that it's like, okay, I'm gonna sign up and do it. But now it's like you have how many coaches? You have coaches for everything.
Yeah.
I mean, because you see the value.
Yeah. So I have a coach in my business. I have a coach for taxes. I have a coach for media. You know what I'm saying? Like multiple people.
And you're a coach yourself.
Yeah.
A super successful coach.
Yeah.
I like when you always say coaches have coaches.
And the way that I view that is like, as I grow more, I can give more. I'm not able to hold, let's say, Brian Murillo's attention if I'm not able to continually add value.
Yeah.
The moment that you stop adding value, it becomes stagnant. Yeah. And people will feel that. They'll come to calls and they'll feel like the same thing all the time, right? And if you really view it as a responsibility to the organization, I view it as a responsibility to all of Ocean Size. My growth is really not for me.
Yeah, and you could tell because you literally want to achieve it. You're always 3 years. And I'm not the only one that sees that. And that's why we all stick with you. And you have grown so much as far as like the organization you build and also coach you.
Well, and as a person, so like you've known me for a while. And we worked at the same office.
Yeah.
That stage in my life, I was a different person.
Mm-hmm.
I used to joke that I was like Kaiser Soze. Like nobody saw me, I was never in the office. I truthfully wouldn't really be there to help people.
Yeah, we all knew our Novello. We knew off air.
Yeah.
Nobody knew our Novello.
That's right. They'd be like, oh man, he's here. Like he's doing a class. Everybody downstairs right now.
Every time that you walk through the office, you see just his picture, at the top as the #1 producer. And it's like the nation and what he knows about. He works out of his garage.
Yeah.
That's all we knew.
That's all they do. And now, I mean, you know me now, I'm a completely different person.
Yeah.
Which is like as it should be.
Yeah. You always evolving.
Yeah.
And that's what I was going to. I personally think that I discovered the importance of coaching too late.
Yeah.
Some others might say it might not be too late.
Well, and I'm curious, I don't think it is because you're so young. But the question is what inhibited you from getting involved with it prior? Because I know people were telling you, like, and in various different.
Wanting the financial aspect. Yeah, sure. I cannot deny it. It's not wanting to go through the expense. That's work. And the other one is like the ego part.
Yeah.
I can figure this.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure that are the two number one reasons why people don't do it.
That's right.
Or don't do it sooner.
That's right.
Because again, once you do it and the coach is able to help you, you see the value, you stick to it.
Oh yeah, it becomes very evident very quick. I mean, you told me on our first coaching call, it was so like intense for you.
Yeah.
You came back to the call, you're like, bro, I had to take a nap.
For the first time, I had somebody confronted and then through, that they didn't want to recognize.
Yes. Yeah, and I love that relationship because it's playful that way.
Yeah.
Because we'll be on calls and it'll be super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And you'll know it. And sometimes, which is fantastic, sometimes like we're in the same geographic space, you'll literally like change your body. You're like, okay, I'm done. I don't want to talk about say we're conjured with. But like I also am very much so aware how much you've changed in a short period. People who really know you have reflected that, whether it be your part of the talk, came up to me and he's like, bro, I just want to let you know, I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about, but Brian's different.
That's awesome. But I feel that the ego part, we try to hide it behind the fact of like, I can figure it out myself. Well, the truth is, you don't want to confront me.
Yeah.
I can have the best coach, Tony Robbins, that is well known. You can put it in front of you and tell you this is the way. If you're not there mentally to accept it, you're going to start hiding it behind the fact of like, no, I can figure it out myself.
Right.
But behind that is the fact that you don't want to confront, that you have to change.
Agreed.
And that's what a good coach does.
Yeah, like a great teacher will change the way that you think. So really, a lot of the work that we do, some of it is technical. We help with systems and like all that other stuff. We'll get it set up where you didn't have any.
Yeah.
A lot of the work is the way that you think.
Yeah.
And it's me constantly, sometimes challenging,
Yeah.
sometimes playfully, sometimes forcefully,
Yeah.
like however it needs to be done. And truthfully, I wouldn't be able to serve you or people of your caliber if I was overly concerned with them with what they think about the outset
How they see it.
and how they feel. And I know that because I also go through those evolutions.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people imagine like, oh, like he's not afraid or he doesn't hesitate or he doesn't. No, like of course. And on a call recently, I shared with you, like you can only attract what you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of agents that are similar to you. Smart, hardworking, ambitious.
Yep.
And because of that, everybody buys their bullshit. Everybody's like, oh, it's Brian, he's the man, oh, like whatever he says goes. And nobody's there to be like, hey, bro, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And surrounding yourself, the more that you're willing to surround yourself with individuals who will, with love, share with you what's true,
Yeah.
it magnifies your growth. Like it is a quantum leap. What would normally probably would have taken 10 years to do, you can do in like a year, in a short period of time.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And I've seen it throughout the years. We've been doing one-on-ones for a couple of years now. You mentioned very first session I had to take a nap because it was just so much for me. But as we start working together and you start showing me the way, I embraced those uncomfortable conversations.
Yes.
And every time, like even after a while, that it gets to a point that, okay, everything is going fine, but then we run into a call and it's like, well, I'm feeling uncomfortable. It's because something good is, like I literally tell myself, something good is about to happen.
Yeah.
Aaron is going to show me or help me see something that I'm not seeing.
Yeah, and sometimes
That I don't want to see.
Yeah, and there needs to be healthy friction.
Yeah.
It's a healthy level of friction. So you know that I am not saying anything to you out of malicious intent, out of trying to make me right and you wrong. Everything really has your best interest at heart. At the same time, the truth will set you free, but at first it pisses you off.
Yeah. Love it.
And there's been numerous times where there's friction.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get mad, and maybe I get mad. I'm like, so it's normal.
Mm-hmm.
That's where growth happens.
Yeah.
If there's not this internal friction and like an internal kind of grappling,
Yeah.
you're not really pushing yourself.
I love it. I love it. And one of the reasons why I wanted to mention that is because you're very outspoken, right?
Yeah.
And you're not afraid to say, what you think. And that creates this environment where you bring people to your circle and also push people away. But you're leading yourself out of truth. The people that are being pushed is because most of the time they don't want to come their own truth and recognize it.
Yeah, that and there's something that they're getting from me that is causing some sort of emotional response in them. What I'm aware of though is it's completely has to do with them and not me. Right? So I've told that story before where I was doing a talk and there's a couple of ladies in the room and somebody says, hey, can I have the microphone? We give him the mic. He stands up and he's like, hey, Aaron, the first time I met you online and I thought you were annoying and your voice bothered. And it was interesting because initially what I'm thinking in my head is like, if I wouldn't take advice from you, why am I taking criticism? That's the first step, right? But I'm like, okay, that's fine. Doesn't affect me at all. But then I noticed, Brian, everybody in the room, there was like this slow kind of nervous laughter. And what I became immediately aware of instantaneously is, oh, everybody in this room is terrified of getting that type of feedback. I mean, that's why they never put themselves out there. And if you do, it's perceived as a superpower to other people.
Yeah.
Because they're so afraid of getting that feedback. Now, what was also interesting is that same individual, he has self-awareness, and what he said was, at the same time, as I continued to watch content, I became aware that I wasn't actually annoyed with you. I was annoyed with myself because I knew something that you were saying was and I wasn't doing it.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect example. It's kind of causing something to come up for them, but it's really their stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now he's partnered with us. So he goes from like, I don't like you, you're bothering me.
That's where the difference comes. You gotta be open-minded. So give yourself the opportunity to release, even if it's uncomfortable. If you always push something away, you never get to have enough information to make the best decision.
That's right. And the obstacle is the way. It's the thing that we're like trying to avoid. You don't get through something by going around it. You get through it by going through it.
Yes.
And that's the uncomfortable part. So sometimes when we go through something, metaphorically, what it's like is this. So I'm like, hey, Brian, and you need to hire somebody. And you're like, I don't know, like it costs money and that. I'm like, yeah, we need to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, look, we're going to fucking lock arms for a second, and we're going to walk through this thing together.
Yeah.
I promise you it's going to be okay. It's a little scary. At the same time, it'll be fine once we get together.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
And that's really what a really good kind of, I don't know. And I don't even like the word coach, just like somebody who's a little bit further down the path.
And it's just showing you.
And what they're doing is they're showing you. And 80% of this is psychology, 20% is mechanics. 20% is how to do stuff. SOPs, what to say and how to say it, there's scripts for that. But 80% is how you're thinking.
Love that. Going back to your story, how do you get into real estate? You mentioned that all the tests back in school came back to being good at sales.
Yeah.
How do you jump into real estate?
I started reading books, as I was mentioning to you, and I got obsessed with reading books about building wealth because that was my focus.
So going back to the hire.
And they all had a tendency to gravitate towards real estate. I figured what better way to learn about the investment vehicle than to get my license. And really, there's another story in that too, is that while I was at school at the University of Florida, there was a talk being given by the guy who owned the biggest gym in Gainesville. It was an individual gym, not a franchise. So he was like, he had helicopters and he was super well-to-do. And it was privately owned. He was talking about and teaching on the book, Think and Grow Rich. Okay, again, leading back to what I was reading and thinking about. And there was a woman there who was a real estate agent. And she was an attractive woman. And I'm sitting in the crowd. I'm like, well, maybe I want to look into real estate. I don't know what this guy did. You know what I'm saying? So I think there's like a serendipitous nature to things, kind of this invisible hand that was, even though I was like, no, I don't want to be a real estate agent. There's like invisible hand that was like leading me in that direction.
Yeah, I could see that. You get license and then you start just working. You were doing real estate in Gainesville because of a common situation. Your mom had to come down to Florida.
Yes.
I want to know more because at that point you were being coached.
For the first year, I wasn't. I made $13,000.
Yeah. Okay. That's engaged.
Yeah.
You came down.
Prior to coming down, I started getting coaching.
Okay.
And then that next calendar year, when I had a coach, for the first 3 months, I did 15 transactions. So I was on my way to do probably like 50.
Wow. Now we're talking about third year.
Second year.
Wow.
Like full year, right? So it went from no coach, made $13,000. First 90 days with a coach, 15 transactions.
Wow.
So it was on track to do, whatever that is, 50, 60 deals. But then my mom, in April of 2007, she had a brain bleed. I made a very quick decision, because it was kind of all hands on deck, that I would just shut everything down. I owned a condo, like 5 blocks from the University of Florida. I rented it out, put everything in a truck, and within, like a week, you went down here.
Yeah.
That started from scratch. The good news is I knew this geographic area a little bit because I grew up here. But growing up, you don't really pay attention to things, you know what I mean? So I kind of knew the geographic area. Thing that I did know is I knew how to prospect. I knew how to pre-qualify. I knew how to list property. So the first, I don't know, maybe let's say 3 or 4 months, I listed like 10 properties, but none of them sold. So what I realized is I know how to prospect, lead follow, bona fides, negotiate deals. I don't know how to price properties in this market because I was used to a different market. Then kind of drilled down on previewing properties prior to appointments so I could get a I could really physically see what they look like and get a clear understanding.
Yeah.
Once we dialed that in, it was off the races. First calendar year here, I did 17 deals. Next year, 50, then 75, then 89, then like 92, and then 100. So it's wow. Yeah, 5 years to get to it.
And since then, you've been doing more than 100 deals.
Yeah.
200 deals twice.
Yep.
As a solo agent.
Yeah. With staff.
With staff, yeah. Obviously, a very drilled down systems.
Yeah.
Which Carter helped a lot,
Yeah, and focused on the highest leveraged activity, which is the staff.
But the numbers, again, I know a lot of successful agents. How do you get to sell that many properties? The amount of time and effort that goes into this sector right now. Let me ask you, like at any point, due to circumstances, even personal frustrations, so sometimes that many transactions can be over or exhausting. Do you ever feel like that?
Yeah. I mean, for the first 5 years, all the way up to 100 deals, every, or maybe 3 or 4 months, I'd look at Carla and be like, I could be doing something else.
And you were making a good
Yeah, and I'd still be like, I could be doing something else.
Yeah.
So I think that's normal. After the 5 year mark, that kind of wasn't like a thing anymore. I think it comes down to like really good systems. It comes down to really good staff. It comes down to actually trusting your staff. I think a lot of people have people in place, or they don't trust them. So they like hover and still do the work, just maybe not as much of it.
Yeah.
And it also comes down to like this unwavering attachment to what's true. Because what's really true is if you price a property right and don't take pictures and it goes on the market and you don't do any marketing, it's still gonna sell. That's what's true.
Yeah.
Now, when I say that, people get upset.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make it any less true. Understanding that and getting really good at helping people self-discover where they need to be at price-wise. Really good at setting appointments and convincing people that I'm better in MLS than someone else.
Yeah.
Because really that's what that is. Really good at handling objections. So getting the contract signed and pricing it right. If you do that, you can do that 10, 15, 18 times a month. And because it's such a highly leveraged activity, in each one of those listings, I'm probably only in each one like 8 hours, maybe 10 maybe. Between setting the appointment, going the appointment, talking to them a few times, negotiating, right? If you really think about it, that is the only way, other than doing like a huge team, which are managing people, and then the profit margins go down, or like all this other stuff. It's the only way that you can do this in volume and still remain very, very profitable.
Yeah.
Even at those numbers, we were running, skeleton. I'm like 65% revenue, which is like unheard of.
So how you mentioned profit margin, the amount of hours that each listing can take you.
Yeah.
You're literally having these conversations that not every agent.
No, because most agents
are not even aware of.
No, and most agents, they're not, and I mean this lovingly, I do. They're not business people, they're just salespeople. And they think like salespeople.
Yeah.
And they're usually just trying to make enough money to pay their bills.
Yeah.
So, I had a mentor tell me one time, like, hey, it's kind of easy to get wealthy. I'm like, what do you mean? Why? He's like, because very few people are actually trying.
Yeah.
So most agents, they do a handful of transactions and go on vacation. You know what I'm saying? Where for the first 5 years, like, there was very little anything.
Yeah.
No, I didn't have a TV in my house for 10 years.
Wow.
Like, no distractions, right? Because I found the vehicle. Imagine, I felt like Charlie in the Charlie Factory. Like, I have the golden ticket. I have this thing. It's legal to sell.
Yeah.
I can sell as much as I want, and nobody's gonna stop me. Yeah, and nobody can stop me. Like I could just do I can take as much as I want, as much as I can.
Yeah.
Right now, that has, at some point, that also has its own kind of downside, because you could spend 70, 80 hours a week doing that, and then you're missing out on other things.
Yeah.
At the same time, like I just recognized the opportunity. I share with people, I took a mission trip to Haiti, which is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. But when I came back, people are like, oh, like, so tough. I'm like, no. Like, I'm very clear. There's a reason why, I think it's the statistic is 70% of millionaires in the United States are immigrants. First generation. The reason is because they understand the opportunity.
Yeah.
Like, I understood the opportunity. I watched my dad work 50, 60 hours a week to make 50, 60 grand, and I could make that going blah, 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 driving around and like,
But you have to have the awareness, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We talked a lot about that. You can have the opportunity right in front of it. And if you don't have the awareness, if you don't have the open mind, we won't see it, period.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, they don't make the decision to really go pro. Yeah. Because I made the decision, like, I want to be one of the best to do this. And I want to be like a dominant listing agent in this geographic area. That's what I want. And then it's understanding what's required. So I think part of the reason why people don't produce the outcomes that they want, they don't really think about what's necessary. They go mostly on ego, like, oh yeah, like I can do it, or I'm him, or like whatever, I'm her.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so I was having this conversation with my son. He plays soccer, and he's pretty good. And he's going into high school. and he wants to play on the team. So I asked him, I said, hey, can you keep doing what you're doing right now and make the JB2? He was like, yes. Can you keep doing what you're doing right now and play bars? Immediately he said no. I said, great, what would you need to change? He's like, well, I have to go to the gym. I'd have to practice every day. I probably have to hire a coach, and I have to pay attention to what I'm putting in my mouth. Like he knew right away.
Yeah.
So then I said to him, okay, great. Now that you know what's required, the decision is yours. You have to decide, and I'll love you either way. If you do it, great. If you don't, that's okay too.
That's a coaching call, right?
That's all it is. And what Carla told me one time, she's like, Aaron, your most important coaching clients are your children. She's right. But that's all that is. Now he knows. So if you ask an agent, like somebody watching, okay, you want to become a dominant listing agent? Can you keep doing what you're doing right now and do that? And then most people will be like, well, no. What would you have to do? Well, I'd probably have to prospect 3 hours a day.
Yeah.
I'd probably have to become a really great salesperson. Because which group is bigger? People that you know or people that you don't? The people that you don't.
Yeah.
That's a bigger group. So to be able to convert those people into clients, I have to get better at the skill of presenting candle injections for closing. I'd also have to get really, really good at pricing promptly.
Yeah.
I'd also have to have a minimum standard of listing 8 to 10 properties per plant. I know what's required.
You never do an open house. No.
Well, at the beginning, but once I figured it out.
Once you figured it out, that's not the way to sell a property. You've never had to go there and show a property.
No.
So.
And one of the knocks would be, I mean, people would get all mad. They're like, I can't get you on the phone about it. I'm like, it's by design.
Yeah. Properties are still being sold. Yeah. So.
Yeah, like not going to walkthroughs, not going to closings. And again, people have these opinions about it. And I'm like, great, dude. Well, I sold 2,000 homes my year. I retired from selling real estate after 17 years. And like, okay, if you want to argue with me, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I just know you need an accurate assessment of reality in order to produce a good outcome. I have to see what's true, not what I would like to be true or what somebody on YouTube tell me is true, but what's really true.
Yes.
Because then and only then can I make decisions in accordance with that. And then it increases the chances I'll get back. So if I want to turn this into a very profitable, right, not ego-based where we do a lot of units and like don't make any money, or we have a huge team and nobody on the team eats, which usually happens.
Yeah.
Because whenever I talk to people, they're like, I have a team. I'm like, okay, how many deals are they doing? It's usually not many.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, you're eating and they're starving. That's what's going on, right? I mean, it's really what's going on. So if you want this to be really profitable, there's some fundamental truths, which is that like, okay, a listing, it's price number 1, price number 2, price number 3. Period. That's really it. I was watching this TikTok video. This lady was like, here's what to do if your listing's not selling. I just commented, lower them. Like, that's it.
That's it.
Right? So like,
after doing the base, know, because again, if you have professional photography,
right,
you have it on the sites it's supposed to be. You have the basic exposure that nowadays the internet allows. 90-something% of companies are sold through the internet. Correct. Then what's left is just right there. It's crazy how I see agents doing all these sets, especially in this market.
Right.
But what if I do this and this and that, and I advise you to sell it to freaking include a couch? I don't know, man.
You have to deal with confrontation. And it's conflict. And it's a skilled conversation.
Yeah.
Because the majority of homeowners have the majority of their net worth tied up into their house. So they're not just going to be like, you know what, Brian? You're a really nice guy. You've been trying hard. Let's go ahead and lower it 50 grand. Like, they're not going to do that.
Yeah.
So you have to help them to self-discover. And back to your point about like thinking, I also became aware, again, filtering out like what's really true, is I can't be world-class at both. I know all the levers on the listed side, so I didn't even own an E-key. When I tell them, what? I didn't even own one. I couldn't even show property if you wanted me to. But then the question is can you list 10 to 18 homes a month and still work with? The answer is no. You can't.
You cannot, yeah. It is true. You focus a lot on what we're supposed to do, which is sales. Be good at what to say and how to say it. And then you had your Android side, Carla helping me listening too. You guys developed a world-class system for real estate in place to be able to list 200 properties and sell 200 properties in a year. Yeah. So you've been so worried that I had to have different breakthroughs. And when we start talking, even though I know you had because we were in the same brokerage, I didn't know you because because you were inaccessible. But this opportunity came into place with TVCXP. I knew the legend Aaron, we knew all each other. I knew your numbers, and I always were curious, like everybody else. What the heck, this guy, hey, different.
Yeah.
It's like, he sold this property, sell this properties, and nobody knew him in person.
Yeah. He doesn't go to any of the networking events.
That's how
He's not talking to anybody.
We realtors, like, we always start a networking event and a social and a gathering stuff. But you're very, very intentional with where to put what time. You also have a family too.
Yeah.
You have a wife, you have 2 kids, and you've gone on vacation, and you go on vacation too. You did I remember you did an Ironman too once. You went to Haiti, you mentioned too. So you lead a normal life. You are a normal person and still were able to do that. That's why I always been curious is how. And now you made that accessible because of this opportunity.
Yeah.
But not only the opportunity, but also after the opportunity, seeing that you definitely had at your level a breakthrough in the quantum leap. Yeah. I want you to talk to me about a little bit of that. In the past 2 or 3 years, what had been that breakthrough?
Yeah, it's really been thinking, and it's again 80% thinking and 20% some mechanics. So the thinking began with a book called U Squared, where selling that many homes for an extended period of time and turning yourself into the person that can do that—that's great. Selling 200 homes at school till it isn't, and having 100 coaching classes until it isn't.
Yeah.
Right. Then I started to think about like leverage. I started to think about time. I started thinking about margin with time, money, and energy. And really starting to want, now it's about, okay, how can we also bring back into my life, like friends, like other things, right? At the same time, though, it was unacceptable to me because I think some people have this thing, like, it's one or the other. You can either be like, homeless or like live in a cave and meditate all day long but have no money, or be like a rich person but you're
unhappy.
You have shitty relationships with people.
Yeah.
But those aren't accurate. Yeah. Right? They actually have nothing to do with one another. But I didn't really know how. So I did what I normally would do is I'm like, okay, well, let's set out to learn. And in the book U Squared, one of the things that popped out at me is that harder work just leads to incremental gains. And I think a lot of people, there's like this strong hustle culture. It's just like, okay, good. Like, yeah, working hard is like the barrier to entry. You know what I'm saying? What I'm also aware of is that it's linear in nature. It's most of people's only strategy is just at work time. The problem with that is that it's limited in its capacity. And inputs are disassociated with outputs. Yeah. So if I take one listing, I get one commission check. Not like one listing, I get 10 commissions, right? So that was the first part. Then I read another book by a guy named Novello. This is the Almanac of Novello Ravikant. Very Bert Salvas. Yeah. And most of what you read is like recycled information. People just say it in a different way. Yeah. This book, though, Naval said something I'd never heard anybody say before, and it literally like blew my brain. And it was talking about the different forms of language. Because until then, I had a very rudimentary understanding of language. First, it was like, okay, I need some buyer's agents. It's a rudimentary understanding. And it was like, oh, maybe I need to own part of an office, which I did. That's a rudimentary understanding. And it was really centered around 2 forms of leverage that are actually lower forms of leverage. So in there, he talks about the leverage of labor, which is people. And the reason why we can understand that is because it's been around for a really long time. Like the Pharaoh could have built the pyramids himself, but instead he, through slave labor, had like 50,000 people build it for him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we understand having other people do stuff. But it's the lowest form of leverage because people get tired, they get quit, they get sick, they quit, they go on better splits, they go on vacation. So it's a form of leverage, but it's not the best one. The second form of leverage is capital, which is where you have money working, which I had been doing, right? I lived way within my means, which is another pro tip, because most people, as they earn more money, they increase their lifestyle simultaneously. And then there's a dip in the market like we had last year, and it becomes a problem for people. I wasn't doing that, but way within my means to 40 to 50% of everything I was earning, and I was investing it. So the reason why capital is better than labor is because money doesn't get sick, doesn't get tired, doesn't quit, doesn't go on vacation. It just works all the time. It's superior in that way. The only issue with it is it takes so long. It took me selling real estate in super high volume for 17 years to accumulate enough to be able to cover, housing, transportation, food, and insurance.
Yeah.
And he said that there's these 2 new forms of leverage. And the first new form of leverage is media, which is what I'm doing today. And I know it took me like 6 months to convince you that this was a thing.
100%.
And the reason why media is actually more valuable than money, and I want everybody to really hear what I just said, because that is a interesting statement. Because if that was true, if you have money in the bank, it's actually more valuable to put it in the media, because the media is more valuable over time. And the reason why it's more valuable is because it works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It keeps getting bigger. And the reason why that's super valuable is because as the audience gets bigger, you can service that audience in all different ways. Yeah, right? With either they can become clients, there's like coaching or consulting, there's courses, there's all this products, whatever. Any business that you create, if you have enough attention, is going to be successful. And then the highest form of leverage is software. And the reason why software is the highest form of leverage is not only because it works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week anywhere on the planet, but it costs almost no money to duplicate or replicate once it's been created one day.
Yeah.
That got my brain thinking, because I'm like, oh, I am the lowest form of leverage. Sure, I'm the Heisman Trophy winner of the lowest form of leverage, But I'm in the lowest form of leverage. That's why I have no margin for things. And that's why I have no additional time, because to sell all those homes, you got to work 60, 70 hours a week. You know, I mean, there's no way around that. It just is what it is. So I was like, oh, okay. And a lazy mind's answer is just to work harder. I'm going to say it again. I know it's going to piss a lot of people off, but it's true. A lazy, because a lot of us are like, nobody's going to outwork me. But that's a lazy answer. A more sophisticated mind is like, okay, what tools do I have at my disposal? What leverage do I have at my disposal so that I can do more, the same or more with less? And that's the difference between 2x thinking and 10x thinking, right? 10x thinking is like, I know I need to do less in order to do more. As I started to look at that, I had bought part of an office, and I realized like there was no money there. I'm like, oh, this is not really.
Thought you were an officer.
Right, that's like an ego thing. And it's really sticky, you know, it's a way for them to try to keep you there. But I saw it like very clearly. I'm like, oh, there's nothing here. I thought this was something else. So I realized I had the right idea just to blow via it. And the way I explained that to people was like, let's say me and you are in a race, and you're in a Honda and I'm in a Lamborghini. Like, who's gonna win? Even if you're a NASCAR driver in your Honda, I'm still going to win. Why? The vehicle. So I realized, oh, I'm in a Honda. There is something else that is a Lamborghini. And that was EXP. Because really, EXP is just software. Now, it's the highest form of leverage, right? Because brokerages, they don't do any transactions. They're platforms. Yeah. Just like YouTube doesn't create any content. It's a platform.
And you mentioned software and just brings to my attention. I recently renewed my coffee antivirus thing, and the guy just recently died, and it's like still people are using it.
It's like recurring revenue.
Automatically, my credit card is charged. You know, it's there.
That's exactly right. So it costs very little money to duplicate or replicate once it's been created once. And I know they have updates and stuff, but in comparison to the revenue, it's very small.
Yeah.
I realized like, oh, this is just software that you can spend $85 a month and $150 one time to plug into the process your transaction. Where the tough decision came was saying like, okay, I have to let go of something that is 2x in order to pursue something that is 10x.
When you say 2x, talking about 7 figures.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because we're talking about business, it's hard.
Very. Yeah, it took me a year.
Yeah.
After, like, you know, and lots of pressure from Carla, and a business coach from the large was like, and I'm like, and I was telling you recently, I was like, internally, like, leave me alone.
Yeah.
And that's how you know you're onto something. But I think your comfort keeps you from your calling. And I'm aware that the games that I'm playing now are long games, you know, with media and with media attraction. You want to play long games though, because very few people are willing to play them. And over time, what happens is like, yeah, I may have let go of something here that was requiring 3,000 hours a year to produce those figures in income. Well, in 3 to 5 years, I will be producing the same, if not more, with like a fraction of the time. And I'll have time freedom and location freedom. I could be anywhere on the planet and that happens. Unlike when I took a vacation, you know, that listing month might be light because everything stops.
Yeah.
If I'm not here, pound it out.
Yeah.
And I know people will be like, oh, you're the team. But I'm like, okay, well, they're not you. Usually the people are on a team because they want to be fed.
Yeah.
That's really what it is.
Yeah, 100%. That's crazy. I can definitely relate when you say that your comfort keeps you from your calling.
Yeah.
That's so powerful. And I have experienced that multiple times in coaching calls with you.
Yeah.
You get to a point, a lot of it, it's cool.
Yeah, and sometimes I've said things to you that if I wasn't your coach, you probably like try to fight me.
Yeah, of course. Definitely.
You know what I mean? But I'll say it to you, but I'll preface it by being like, hey, Brian, like I mean this with love. Here's what I'm seeing. And almost invariably, no, not almost, every single time, if not immediately, but eventually, you'll be like, yeah, that's accurate.
Yeah, it takes some time, yes. I already feel that I went through the break. Listening to Aaron and seeing where he's at, which is another thing. You want to be where someone is, you got to do whatever they did.
Yeah.
And show you. And so it's like, if I want to be financially where Aaron is, it should make sense to do what so we do it.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
I don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, and it's not like I know everything because I don't. At the same time, like I have produced certain outcomes.
Yeah. Exactly. So,
and you know, I'll say like, hey, bro, I'm just a person, but like, here's the way. And then it may take, like, let's say with the media thing, now you're doing a fantastic job of it.
Yeah.
What people don't know behind the scenes is it took multiple like conversations over 6 months. And like, are you sure?
And let me say this, like, this is gonna be the 11th episode.
Yeah.
And I've had like very good feedback from first. And I would say the number one reason why all of this happened is because of you.
Yeah.
Which I'm very grateful for. You push me on, you know. You have had multiple of those moments where you're out of pounding me. It's like, this is the way, this is what you gotta do. But it takes until one moment, it's like, fuck it. And I have had that feeling multiple times. It's like, forget it. It's like you feel that relief. I'm tiny.
And you're so playful because sometimes I forgot what it was, but I said something to you maybe about like posting your coaching calls that you do in Spanish, putting it online, and you were like, I wouldn't be being me if I didn't resist. Like,
Exactly. Yeah. But people need to embrace that.
Yeah.
People's issues, problem in business, personal. It's about confronting,
100%.
running away from the discomfort.
Yeah, and whether it's me or anybody else, it's just like finding somebody that you can relate to and that has a demonstrated track record of good judgment over an extended period of time in the area that you're looking to get information from. You know what I mean? And then also making sure that they have high levels of integrity and that they're sharp as a tack. Whatever it is that they do, they're like really, really good at it. And if you find yourself in the presence of somewhere that I would call believable, meaning that they've produced the favorable outcome consistently, and you're arguing or you're pushing back, my suggestion would be was to pause and start to take notice. They wouldn't be producing the favorable outcome if they didn't have an accurate assessment.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Makes total sense. So many good stuff. Just wanted to say that I'm very appreciative to make business with you.
Same, brother.
Probably like a couple months ago, I was thinking about the 5 people that have helped me with all this transformation that I've been having and all this growth recently, and definitely you're in the top 5 for sure. You have helped me redo my entire business to a point that I created opportunity for other people. I was successful within the real estate industry before even starting working with you, coaching with you. But to your point, I was to some extent being lazy because the only way that I knew was to work hard.
Yeah.
If you were to tell me that back then, it's like, what do you mean lazy? What's up, bro?
You're like, how dare you call me that?
But I understand exactly what you mean now because I know there's a better way. And that's why we're taking advantage of this vehicle.
Yep.
That's what it is. EXP is a vehicle. And we are bringing our talents and helping people with growth and showing that there's a better way. You mentioned about how there's the hustle culture, when they're bragging, working hard.
Yeah.
Getting out of the office at 9 to 8 was bragging.
Yeah. Oh, and posts of it. Oh, gotta stay late. You know what I mean? Yeah.
The time that I'm like getting that late, I'm saying, what am I doing wrong now?
Yeah.
I don't want to be here.
Well, I love that because what that demonstrates is that your thinking's changing.
Yeah.
And thinking precedes action. So like, I have to change the way that I think before I can change the way that I'm behaving. And I think people try to will a behavior without changing the way that they think. It's not gonna stick. Your thinking started to change where before it was like, rah, look at me. Now you're like, man, I'm screwing up.
Yeah.
I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And that's awesome because that's indicative of thinking change.
Yeah, 100%. I wasn't thinking like that a couple of years ago at all. I've noticed also, I'm not the only one. Everyone that is in the environment, it's getting to change perspective. Like the same way real estate and selling real estate is just a vehicle, 2 ways. And you gotta find other ways. I'm only saying it for EXP, to think outside of the box and to grow something that can work without us being.
And it also gives us an opportunity to have like a tremendous fun. And, you know, I've shared with Carla, it's interesting because you were one of the first people I sat down with.
Yeah.
There's like maybe 4 people in the organization. I cast this vision for you, like, hey, dude, this is what we're gonna do. And now I remember when we just had the gala, like I could see it in your face that you were like, oh yeah. This is I see what you were talking about then. I see it now.
Yeah.
Right? And I told Carla, like, I very much so view what we're doing. It's like a ministry, which is the more people that we can bring into kind of the organization and the fold, the more we can pour into them, the more we can love on them, the more we can equip them with what they need in order to create a life that has margin in it. Because I think what's happened as a society is in the pursuit of progress, we have allowed margin to be eviscerated. So there isn't any. So people don't have time for their health. They don't have time for, relationships. They don't have time for anything. And they feel like, all stressed out and everything. And there's a solution. Right? And this vehicle also allows leadership. It incentivizes them to do precisely that, which is to open up kind of the kimono and share it. Right? Because incentives are very interesting because they shape behavior. And in other models, you can't talk to the top producer because they have no incentive to talk to you. There's none. I think that's what leads to watered down meetings. That's what leads to watered down events. And, where you're sitting there and you're like, bro, what are we doing here? Right? You got, somebody with 2,000 followers talking about social media. Like, what's going on here, guys? You can find somebody else. This model provides that environment with the right ownership.
And that's the beauty of elite builders under your leadership also means that you're not afraid to tell the truth, not to whoever it's willing to hear it and apply it. And that is something too that I've growth that I've had is like confronting the truth. Even last night, I had an uncomfortable conversation, but I was like, instead of assuming stuff, let me just have it and clear the
Yeah, just do it.
just do it.
Yeah.
Because I know that regardless of the outcome, I'm gonna feel better.
Yeah, and I mean, we've had uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah, exactly.
Where like
Yeah,
we got right to it.
he got super uncomfortable.
And I
We
remember,
saw it.
and I shared with you, I was like, I'm glad this is taking place. And you were like, well, why? I'm like, because this is how you strengthen relationships.
Yes,
You get to find out who people really are
100%.
when there is, conflict or miscommunication or whatever the case may be.
And it applies to like marriage, it applies in business with business artists and everything. So, and I seen that every single person that is in your circle that plugs in
Yeah.
and is willing to listen. Man, I agree with you. We're changing lives. That's what makes me super excited. I seen people getting excited about the opportunity,
Yep.
about making more money to real estate, to agent attraction, to the fitness groups that we do.
Yeah.
I run across one of my agents at the gym.
Did you really?
Super excited.
It's so good.
Feels like this is way different than where I was before.
Yeah.
And she's getting all the value from the different aspects of life, which is pretty cool. And we're making a ton of money in the process.
Yeah, that's always nice.
Yeah. So, man, and super appreciate for everything that you're doing.
Yeah.
Excited for what we're building and looking forward to see what's next.
I love it, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
All right.